Hello, my friend. I am Charlie Simons, your host here on Do Not Talk. Talk about two things you're never supposed to talk about, politics and religion. But I also talk to people who I'm not supposed to talk to, according to the media. Those are the ones I love to get on. Just recently met this guy, David Iverson. And my friend Michelle Swinnick introduced me to him, and she calls him the Rush Limbaugh of Wyoming. Rush Limbaugh is one of my heroes. I miss the guy still. I really do. His news and commentary and funny. That was the biggest thing. He always made me laugh. And when what we thought, we're like, oh, this is the worst thing that could ever happen. How are we going to respond to this? I would look forward to hearing Rush's take on it the next day. And one thing that he always did was he made me feel better. He made me realize there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm no Rush Limbaugh because I'm like Mr. Realist. And I'm the first one to say, yeah, I think that light got shut off. I don't know how we get out of this. Sorry, that's just me. I wish I had some positive things to say. It's all going to be okay. You know how I know it's all going to be okay? Ultimately, my go-to is Christ Jesus. As a follower of Christ Jesus, as a lover of my Lord, I've given my life to him when I was 31, late in life, after living like a rock star. I found a better way. And the Bible does promise a peace beyond all understanding, and all things work out for good for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. That's the last part that so many Christians always leave out, are called according to his purpose. So this is my calling, Ephesians 5:11, be no part of the works of darkness, but instead even expose them. That's what I try and do on my show. And I've been doing this for about 4 years now. David Iverson's been doing it longer. His story is great. He's fun to talk to. We're just going to be riffing about things that are going on in the news. A couple of guys sitting around in a cowboy bar having some PBRs. That's what I'm looking forward to with this guy. And I want to thank you for liking, subscribing, and following this channel at rumble.com/do-not-talk. Please follow this channel. And if you can't follow it, that means you're not actually on Rumble. Start a Rumble account, even if you don't do anything with it. Start an account so you can participate, maybe a part of it. YouTube also on there at Charlie Simons when they're not deleting my shows and cutting me off and putting strikes against me. I'm on Twitch now as well, twitch.tv/Charlie Simons, CharlieSimons, CharlieSimons.com is my website. You can always find shows there. And I hope that you will go there. Buy some merchandise while you're there too, would you? Got some shirts, long sleeve, short sleeve shirts. We got hats, we got mugs. And by you buying products, you help support this show financially, and you get something nice out of it as well. I think you'll like a lot of the stuff that's on there. Just click that merch store tab at charliesimons.com. And if you want to help financially, you want to help this ministry, please do. You can find ways to do that on there also, including Venmo. All right, let's do it. David Iverson, the Rush Limbaugh of Wyoming on Do Not Talk. Ready? Hit it. How much snow you got?
None yet. I'm still out riding my motorcycle. But the Sunday we're supposed to have 18 inches. Charlie, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I don't know if I'm the Rush Limbaugh of Wyoming, but I try.
Well, Michelle Swinnick gave you that label, and I went, I'm running with it. I like it.
I'll take it, man. I love Rush.
Did you grow up as a conservative? Are you always from Wyoming? What's your story?
All right. Well, yeah, I was born and raised in a little town called Buffalo, Wyoming. And in answer to your second question, have I always been a conservative? Let me tell you a quick story. I was running for mayor of Buffalo, Wyoming. And in Little Buffalo, you have to be in the parade if you're going to win an election. And at the time, yeah, well, and at the time, my mom had this hot little sports car. It was a Mercedes. And I thought, well, I know she's going to tell me no, but I'll go ask her anyway. So I went over to Mom's house and I said, Mom, I need to borrow the car. She says, what for? I said, well, I'm going to be in the parade. I'm running for mayor. You have to do that. And she says, no. And I mean, like I say, I knew the answer was coming, and I said, "Well, okay, I'm in this far. I should probably see why not." And I said, "Well, I kind of figured you would say that, but why?" And she goes, "I'll give you two reasons." And I said, "All right." She says, "The first reason is I don't want my car around all those idiots." And the second one, and she says, "David, you've been a conservative since you were 5." She said, "You don't drive cars that you can't afford, and quite frankly, you can't afford my Mercedes." So yeah, I have been a conservative all my life. I remember the first time I listened to Rush Limbaugh, I was really little, and during high school, listened to him as much as I could, and then after I graduated, like every day, sitting in my office when I was still able to work. So yeah, I mean he's one of my idols, and if I think all of us that do this for a living, we can only aspire to be as successful and informative and as a quality broadcaster like he was. So that's what I do every day on Cowboy State Politics.
Cowboy State Politics. That's where you find David. That's the name of his show, and you can find him on all the usual places you find podcasts. Just look for Cowboy
State Politics.
Yep. Cowboy State Politics, which Wyoming has a great reputation of being a whole bunch of cowboys. I've been there many times. I love the state. When I was living in Utah, living and working there, and no, I'm not LDS. I always have to follow it with that. I was on a radio station there, and every weekend I did everything I could to get out of Salt Lake City because I wasn't too crazy about living there. Honestly, if you're not one of them, they let you know you're not really welcome. People don't even make eye contact with you there. It's the weirdest.
Kind of like being a Democrat in Wyoming.
Or a rhino. Thank you, by the way. Thank you, by the way, for getting rid of Liz Cheney. What the heck was that all about?
Oh, that was a piece of work there. Now, interesting story. Wyoming catches a lot of flack, or at least the Republican Party does, for censuring her and saying we're not going to recognize her as our Republican representative anymore. But it didn't have anything to do with her going against Trump. It didn't have anything to do with how liberal or conservative we thought she is or was. At the time, it all boiled down to what she did 6 minutes into January 6th. And I mean, I was at a lot of these meetings where county parties were discussing whether or not to censure her. And the only argument at all of the meetings that I was at, and, Wyoming's a big state. We got 23 counties. But, I mean, you get used to driving here. So there were quite a few meetings that I attended. And the number one argument out of all of that is she didn't afford the president his constitutional rights, that he was not innocent until proven guilty. She was blaming him 6 minutes into the riot. And that's the reason. That's the initial reason why we decided we were going to get rid of her. But then, afterwards, she went like 1,000 days without talking to the Republican Party in Wyoming. And really, I mean, we all knew better, that she really wasn't, from Wyoming, and that she only owned a house over in Jackson. But, I mean, she's the daughter of Dick Cheney, right? How could she not be conservative? Well, anyway, we got rid of her and replaced her with Representative Harriet Hageman, which, by the way, if you ever get bored, Charlie, and you don't have anything to do, just go to YouTube, type in Harriet Hageman Committee, and you'll be entertained for hours. Like, really? That lady is the real deal. And, we, looking back on it, all of us that, yes, I voted for Liz Cheney the first time. I'll admit it. But, I was wrong, dead wrong. So anyway, yeah. But that answers your question, how we got rid of her.
Harriet's been great, fantastic, in fact. And so is the entire state. I loved it when I would try and get away from Utah. I'd head up north, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, did a lot of exploring around. First time I ever got to see Yellowstone and experience it. And I found this town called Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and the Gun Barrel Restaurant.
Now, the Gun Barrel is good, but I have to correct you on one thing, Charlie. Yeah. We who live here in Wyoming never use the words Jackson and Wyoming in the same sentence. In fact, I refer to it as the People's Republic of Jackson. It is Wyoming's only Democrat county, and if you look at a map of the county, it's actually in the shape of a D. which is
Perfect.
pretty fitting. It really
It's
is.
beautiful. It's fun. It's a great area. It's right there at the, close to the Tetons, which is just an extraordinarily beautiful mountain range. My first time hearing bugle, the elk bugling. I was there in
Yeah, that's a cool
October.
sound.
I just got out of I was coming back from Yellowstone and taking a back road back to Jackson Hole where I was staying. And I had a Jeep at the time, and I hear, what is this sound? And I get out, pull off, get out, lay on the hood of my Jeep and listen to these bugling elks all over the place, answering each other. It was nighttime. It was eerie. The sound was just amazing.
Yeah,
And
it's pretty cool.
I fell in love with Wyoming until I found out how much snow you have. And now I hate you. but also Alpine. Alpine was such a great town.
Yeah, that's a cool little town.
Go to the cafe called the Yankee Doodle Cafe. If you're ever anywhere near it, Alpine, Wyoming, trust me on this. Trust me on this. It's like you've walked into Americana personified with great food. It was so fun, but I knew that Wyoming was in trouble when, and this was while Clinton was president, that I was living in Utah and working there. When the Clintons started vacationing there.
Yeah.
And then Harrison Ford and Callista Flockhart moved there, and Hollywood started moving. I went, oh, Shiite Muslim. This town's about to go down. And sure enough.
You know what, though, Charlie? The truth is that while Jackson is predominantly Democrat, there are a lot of really strong conservatives there. And, one of the big reasons why conservatives were able to take over one house of our legislature was because of a lot of people in Jackson, because there are a ton of super wealthy people there. And if you're going to be successful in politics, unfortunately, you got to have some cash. I mean, it doesn't mean everything, but you have to be able to campaign. And, for I would say at least 50 years, Wyoming's legislature was at best purple. Most people don't think that. They look at that. They voted for Trump 73%, which is true. We did. But like a lot of the Western states, our legislature is populated by a bunch of what I call redcoats. They're Democrats who realize that it's really hard to get elected being a Democrat. And so they switch their party to Republican so that they can get elected. And in a lot of Western states, Utah is one of them, Montana, Colorado, I think that's kind of a lost cause, but it didn't used to be that way. But a lot of states have legislatures that are really not representative of the entire state, because it's, most conservatives, we don't want to run for office. We want to be left alone, go hunt elk, go ride the motorcycle, go fishing or whatever, and just leave us the heck alone. Well, liberals don't look at the world like that. I mean, I did a story today on my program talking about why liberals are coming out in the open and saying they're socialists now. Well, it's because it's become, chic. It's the new vogue.
It's fashionable. It's easy to be on the left.
Right. And, so, the liberals are the ones that run for office. And the only time you can get a conservative to run is if you irritate them enough that they'll do it just to shut you up. And I mean, I laugh at that, but it's actually true in a lot of cases. My producer is one of those. He's a state legislator, which is why I'm in my home studio and not downtown. But yeah, I mean, it's Wyoming's no different than a lot of other Western states. We got the same problem with Democrats and rhinos as other places.
You probably have a hard time with primary elections too, because I don't know, like in California, you got to be a member of the Republican Party. With your registered as, if you're going to vote in the Republican primary, decide who's going to be going to the big elections in November. And I don't know if Wyoming's the same, but you have a lot of libertarians there. They don't like to call themselves Republicans. They like to call libertarians because it sounds cooler.
The primary, the primary is kind of different. So in Wyoming, the primary election is the election, because the Democrat Party right now in Wyoming is in danger of not being a major party anymore. I mean, they barely got 10% of the vote in the last election.
Which
and
party?
So The Democrats.
Okay.
The Libertarians, really, I think 2 legislative sessions ago, they had a legislator who was a member of the Libertarian Party. So pretty much everybody is Republicans, or registered as Republicans, I should say.
Good.
And so,
Good.
The problem is that not everybody is a conservative. And so what'll happen in our last governor's, 2 governors races ago is a perfect example. So Mark Gordon only got 34% of the vote. It's because there was 4 or 5 people running for office. And so the vote got split, and the most liberal guy got elected. And so that's what happens a lot in races that are pretty contested. There's a lot of them, like my producer's district. He didn't have to worry about the next election. Nobody's going to run against him. But there are other places like in Cheyenne or in Casper that, if they've got a strong conservative that's running, what they'll do is they'll run 2 or 3 other candidates and split the vote, and then the liberal guy gets in. So
they do the same crap here in California. They do the same stuff. We'll have a good grassroots MAGA conservative run it right now. Well, it comes to mind a woman who's running for mayor of Oakland. She's white. Mayor
wow.
Oakland. Everybody's going, oh, she doesn't stand a chance. And so our own Republican Party, and I use that term loosely because I don't associate with these people. I am a Republican, but I hate my own California GOP party. They're just rife with corruption and a lot of crap. But they'll throw a candidate in that's like shiny and bright and says all the right things and everything, but is a flaming lefty. Our own Republican Party does that to keep the grassroots candidate from actually having a chance. Why? It's my biggest question. Why, other than they're pulling for the left? I'm convinced that my own California Republican Party loves being in second place because it's easier to fundraise, isn't it? Oh, help us fight Nancy Pelosi. We'll go after Gavin Newsom. Give us your money.
Well, there's only one thing, Charlie, there's only one thing better than having one party. It's owning 2. And so really, a lot of conservatives kind of flinch at the idea of the uniparty. I mean, that's what we see in Washington, D.C. We've made some strides in the other direction, but for a long time, there was no difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. They both spend a heck of a lot of money. They both write bills that trample on our liberties. And it's just kind of the different flavor of the month. And so when you have 2 groups of people that are colluding together, the Democrats, the Republicans, when they're doing the same stuff, they want business as usual, which is how your local parties get really corrupted, because you get a bunch of rhinos in there. Like you said, they're shiny and they're attractive and they're well-spoken. And so they're able to get elected. And again, not to hit the nail on the head too hard, but Republicans are kind of lazy sometimes. And so we don't go out and campaign for precinct seats and, really pay attention to our county party. And that's what ends up happening. They nominate liberals, or the most liberal Republican they can find. And that's one of the reasons why we don't see any change in our political system.
Nothing will change until we get good people running for office. But when you have your own party plotting against those good people running for office, how do you win?
I'll tell you. So I got the answer for you. So about 6 or 7 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, the Wyoming Republican Party was very much the same thing that you describe. That they're a bunch of liberals. Really, there's no difference between what they do and what the Democrats do. And so we got a bunch of conservatives interested in running for precinct seats. And it took a couple cycles, but we were able to, win precinct seats, actually get people to go out and campaign in their neighborhood. And we were able to take back the party. And
when you say precincts, you're talking about central committees?
Yeah. So, and I don't know what they're called in California, but here they're precincts. But essentially, it's you're the representative of your neighborhood, right? Yeah. In your county central committee. And then, you go to the state level, and then your central committee leadership votes for the leadership of the party. Now, in California, we're talking like orders of magnitude bigger than Wyoming, but the principle is the same. That it takes one person to say, you know what, I'm sick of this. I'm fed up with what's happening. I'm gonna go make a change, and you get them to run for a precinct and win. And it's success is contagious, Charlie. That when we get a conservative that wins, it spurs other people to look at that and say, hey, that guy was able to do it. Maybe I could. And you get some people to fund them, and you just keep building on it. But I think, and maybe this goes back to how you started the show. One of the reasons why Rush Limbaugh always said, it's not a time to panic. I'll tell you when it's time to panic, but right now is not that time, because there's always a way to win. And, a lot of times we get stuck in this instant gratification zone.
Yeah, we're not looking at the long game.
Yeah, Democrats, man, they play the long game, which is why they're way more successful a lot of time than we are.
Just like they're kissing cousins, the communists.
That's exactly right.
10, 50, 100 years in advance. Yeah.
Yeah, don't think that Zoran Mamdani guy came out of nowhere. I mean, that was planned a long time ago. I mean, he wasn't, but the socialists in New York, they had that thing set up just waiting for the right guy to come along.
Yeah, I believe you're right. What's going to happen with that will be interesting. And thank God for President Trump being in office, because they rely on doing all these. California has relied on throwing out all these freebies, even though it makes no sense fiscally. It's absolute suicide. But they know that the feds are always going to bail them out, especially California being such a huge economy and such a powerful drain on the rest of the nation. If we collapse financially, as California goes, so goes the rest of the nation, no matter how well protected you think you are, at least financially, that's for sure. When I lived in Tennessee during the big recession after 2008 and all that, they felt it there with California having all these financial problems. It's spread across the country. So same thing's going to happen now, and we're teetering on collapse. But now we have President Trump in there going, no, you're not getting federal dollars. By the way, we're going to start looking at why you're getting them to begin with.
Well, you guys are the source of this.
California has all the fires, and next thing you know, we're getting these huge millions and billions of dollars of bailout from the federal government to fight the fires that we created by not taking care of our forests. It seems purposefully, because it's a nice little windfall of cash for the state party, isn't it? For the state of California, period, and the Democrat Party. President Trump has changed everything when it comes to that. So what's going to happen in New York if they do elect Mamdani as their little mayor?
Exactly what they deserve to get is what's going to happen there. Yeah, I mean, exactly. That is and I've got a degree in American history, and I've always said, with the exception of, until the 2020 election, that one I'm firmly convinced that thing was rigged. But aside from that one, I've always said that there has never been an American election that has been wrong. The voters get what they deserve. And there have been bad mayors and governors and presidents. But the truth is, there's only one group of people to blame when that happens. And it's the voters. You mentioned Nancy Pelosi earlier. And a lot of us are going like, how in the heck does that woman continue to get elected? Well, it's her district that elects her. So either A, she's got a giant campaign machine, or her voters are so complacent that they just check Nancy Pelosi and go on their way, or it's entirely rigged, which I guess that's possible too. But
how about all of the above?
So it's we only got one person to blame for any of these electoral problems that we've got, and it's us.
Right. This stat stunned me, that a third of the state of California claims to be Christian, yet only about 40% of them are even registered to vote. Just the Christians alone could flip this state in an election or two. And the other group of people that really disappoints me, being a shooter, being a gun owner, and a Second Amendment advocate, yes, don't even register, because they don't want to be on the government's radar. Well, aren't your weapons already registered anyway? They know who you are, where you are, and what you have. But you're not going to get registered to vote because, just leave me alone. I want to do my thing. Well, by giving up that right by not even that God-given right, by the way, I believe, because this whole country was based on Christian principles and blessed by God. I really believe that. You're turning your back on all the rest of us, and that's a cowardly move. Not to register to vote, to me, is very cowardly. And those are the two biggest groups in the state of California alone that aren't registering.
It's not just California, Charlie. It's the whole country. And if there were two groups of people that should vote, that you would think like right off that would be the people that would vote, it would be Christians and hunters, but it's not. And the churches, I think that there's an easier answer why, because since the Johnson Amendment, I don't even know when that thing was passed.
501c3.
Yeah. But
new,
pastors and churches were beaten over the head with, oh, you don't talk politics in church. Oh, you don't do that.
Your tax exempt status.
Right. And I mean, that is exactly the polar opposite of how our country was founded. Had it not been for the ministers and preachers and yeah, there were some priests in there. Had it not been for the clergy, we would not have won the revolution. I mean, yeah, man, there's no way that we would have won that. And so to go from that to we can't talk politics in church is absurd. And so, and I always tell people, if your minister is not talking about how absolutely wrong it is that we've killed 64 million babies, you're in the wrong church. You need to turn around and walk out the door. And hunters, man, that one blows my mind too. But like you said, I'm sure you could chalk it up to not wanting to be on a government list. But let's be honest, if you carry around one of these, you're already on the government's list.
You absolutely are. In California, they even made it law to where you have to go through a DOJ check just to buy ammunition.
Oh, it's ridiculous, man. I filled in for I was working for AT&T, and I had to go out to Sacramento to teach a couple classes. And, I at the time I was living in Tennessee, which, okay, way more conservative than California. And I had a concealed weapons permit at the time. And I was trying to figure out, okay, can I get my gun into California? Because the place where I was going to be working was like right in the middle. All right. Like I'm a small town guy. So the word ghetto to me probably means something a little bit different than it does to you, but it looked like I was going to be right in the middle of the ghetto. And so I went to the airport to talk to the TSA guy and like, look, this is what's going on. I need to figure out something. And he just laughs and he says, you may as well just leave that there, leave that gun at home because you'll never get it into California. And that's just wrong. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. You guys have more gun laws than, well, not as many as Illinois, but you got more gun laws than most everybody else. And you got one of the highest crime rates. It's, gee.
Yeah, how about that?
Do the math.
The bad guys are always going to get what they want, one way or the other, because they steal. Shocker. So let's talk about all the politics aside. A couple of things that are in the news that are interesting and kind of distracting, I think, to the big picture of what's going on in the world. But it is what it is. One is the government shutdown, which is now official. It has happened. I was reading an article just this morning that President Trump, he posted on True Social that thanks, Democrats. Now I'm going to be able to go out and doge all your little committees and all your little government agencies that you've created that do a whole lot of nothing, and turn around and give this money back to candidates, which we've seen here in California in big ways. Governor Hairdo, I really think, has a whole lot of hurt coming his way when they finally start doging California properly, because this guy has taken gifts and campaign donations and all kinds of things for little favors that he has done. So President Trump is like, thanks. Now, what's the deal with 61 days? If the government stays shut down for 61 days, then he can turn around and do this. That's not going to happen. That's never happened in the history of this planet. Keep it closed. What's the longest? I think so far was 35 days. And that during.
Yeah, that was during his first term.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard anything about like 61 days or anything. But the truth of the matter is, if the government is shut down, that is, not mandatory spending, but discretionary spending, then really it is, as I understand it, it's the White House that gets to decide, what programs get cut, and I mean, essentially what the legislature has done has turned their authority over to the executive branch. And as I understand it, man, he can start, taking a meat cleaver to all of those programs. Like he could do it today if he wanted. I'm not exactly sure what's up with the 61 days.
I hope it's happening right now. I think it's fantastic. Chuck Schumer and all the other Democrats whining and crying about, oh, all these poor family people are not going to get paid, and they make it sound like they're never going to get paid. That's not how it works. I learned that during the whole government shutdown during the Obama administration, which, by the way, that was great.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I went on BLM land. I was all over the place, traveling, hiking, having a good time, seeing the sights without somebody telling me I had to pay for this to get into that, and so on and so forth. Yellowstone will stay open. I know that. That's a federal park, and Trump will make sure it stays open. These people will get paid. But what's happening right now is they're basically furloughed. They get themselves a nice little vacation. And then once the whole thing's resolved, they get a huge paycheck for back pay during that whole shutdown. They don't suddenly lose their jobs. They will get paid, and they're getting a nice little vacation out of it too. Now, if they haven't budgeted accordingly, welcome to the real world, federal employees. That's what we have to do all the time. They still get their nice little benefits too, by the way. That doesn't end. Their little health care that most of us never even get to see such good health care. It's not what they're painting it as, this catastrophic thing that everybody's going to lose everything. That's not how it works.
No. And there's so many lies that float around a government shutdown. The reality is the government never really shuts down. It's all of these non-essential services, which brings up an interesting question.
Social Security will still get all their benefits. You'll still get all your pay from that. Medi-Cal, Medicare doesn't shut down.
Yeah, the military doesn't get paid. They're among the group that they'll get back pay whenever we come back. But what I was going to say is it's an interesting question. If we have non-essential employees, why do we really have them anyway? I mean, shouldn't the government only be paying for employees that are essential? And why is it that we have folks that we could do without, and you and I are paying for them? But the truth is that the government doesn't really shut down. It's just all of these extraneous services that we really shouldn't be paying for anyway. And like you say, as it relates to like military personnel, furloughed workers, they'll get all their back pay, and so they get a quick vacation off of work. So what? I think honestly, Charlie, we have a completely backwards view of what government service ought to be. When I was growing up, it was, government service was that, right? It was service, right? You could make an okay wage, but you were never supposed to get rich. And similarly, if you did want to get rich, you would go work in the private sector. Well, we've inverted that. Now, you can go work for, your local town or your county, and you can make a killing. I mean, there's town officials here in Little Sheridan, Wyoming, that are making $100,000 a year, which, I mean, that's ridiculous. When their counterparts, and there's a really cool stat I'm going to give you here in just a second, but their counterparts in the private sector make far less.
Oh yeah.
I was reading an article. I think it was, I don't have it in my stack of stuff here, but yesterday I used a piece on my show where if the federal government were to take all of their employees and make their wages equivalent to those in the private sector, that it would actually lower the budget by 5%. Now, 5% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're talking about trillions of dollars, 5% is a huge amount of money. And, we have got to get back to a place where, if you want to be successful, if you want to make a lot of money, that you work in the private sector. You don't go work for the government. I mean, that's a lot of things about the world we live in, to me, seem upside down and backwards.
It is upside down, and I blame unions. I think the government employee unions are a huge conflict of interest. Why were they even allowed? In California, it's clear because that's They maintain their voter base that way, and a nice little steady stream of money from the unions, government employee unions, who continue to push and push and push for higher wages because they benefit from it, and for less work. It's insane. It has to end. I don't know how to stop it. Can President Trump say, you know what, no more government unions,
Yeah.
at least at federal level? Can he do that? Do you know? 'Cause that
I
would
don't
be
know.
brilliant.
That's probably one of those things that would have to require legislation, I would think. But I mean, the answer to your question is the same as a lot of these others. You got to win elections to do that. But you can do that at the local level, right? Your local city council can vote to do everything by competitive bid. You don't have to go with a union. And in Wyoming, Wyoming's a right to work state. So while we do have unions, really they don't have a lot of influence. Now the teachers union, they get pretty loud around an election time, but as far as like actual like how unions operate nationally, we don't have that problem here because we're a right to work state. You can be fired for whatever reason or no reason here. And, it's again, it all goes back to getting involved at the local level, right? If you can convince your local city council that that maybe these no bid contracts are a bad idea, that maybe we should have a competitive bid process, that would go a long ways at reducing the power of unions.
Well, Governor Hairdo and his band of demons have made it to where you cannot even bid to do government or state work unless you're a union shop.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that.
How about that action? How about that action?
Yeah, get rid of Gavin Newsom and get somebody else.
I hope so. I pray so. But I don't know how, with all the fraud that we have here in California. We've invented ways to cheat that other states are stealing our ways of cheating that are nefarious as well.
Too big to rig, man. That's what it's got to be.
It has to be. But first, we got to get registered to vote. Register to vote.ca.gov. Register to vote.ca.gov. And please register as a Republican. Even if you, like me, you're sick of our own Republican Party here in the state, you got to register as a Republican because we need you in the primary election next summer before we decide who's going to be representing us in November in the big governor election next year. Please get registered to vote. And we got a special election this coming November, Prop 50. We didn't even get to talk to, but I know you got to go.
Well, I've got I probably got about another 10 minutes. We can stretch it a little bit. So who's running for governor in California?
The two front runners are Chad Bianco and Steve Hilton. Steve Hilton was he had a Sunday night show on Fox News.
That's right. That's right.
He was part of the trifecta of conservative destruction that Fox News pulled when they got rid of Dan Bongino, Tucker Carlson, and Steve Hilton, all within like a few weeks of each other. I loved Steve Hilton on there. He comes from Parliament. He was part of the government in England. That's where he's originally from. Now he has dual citizenship. He became an American citizen, lives in California, and loves the state. And I like him. I like what he says. Chad Bianco, maybe not so much. He's sheriff of Riverside County, but we also have we got like a couple of dozen. We got a strong bench, brother. We got a lot of good Republicans that are running for governor, but unfortunately, we got to narrow it down to one, or because we have what's called a jungle primary here in California, too, which is another serious problem. So we have two Democrats running for office all the time. That's why they throw little shiny rhinos into these races and Republican races. They encourage them to pay. And it's so freaking dirty. So dirty. I don't know how we rise above it. Even the too big to rig thing in California, they don't care. They're going to win regardless. And this Prop 50 is going to redistrict everything. They take away the power of the commission that we elected, that we voted for. This is what we want. We don't want politicians drawing the districts and the lines. We want a commission to do this. It's supposed to be nonpartisan. It's been getting better. However, Governor Hairdo, after what happened in Texas, he said, we're going to scrap all that. We got to fight against Trump. We got to fight against Texas. We got to counter it. Help us fight against Trump by letting me decide what the districts are.
Right.
That's what Prop 50 is. And he's calling a special election that's costing us $200 freaking million. And they made a mistake on the ballot, too. So they have to go back and correct it and send out all new ones. That's going to cost who knows how many more millions of dollars in a state that's broke. That's happening next November, the first Tuesday of November, a month from now. that's happening, and I can't even get the Republicans to talk about it. They don't even seem to know about it. The higher ups don't
Well,
even
either
talk.
that or they're totally in favor of going along with Gavin Newsom, which if it's a bunch of rhinos, which sounds like it is, that they're probably in the bag for it.
We're screwed. If Prop 50 passes next month, we are ski-rood.
Well, and that's another reason, Charlie, why a lot of people are in California are moving elsewhere. I've got a lot of friends that moved here from California, and of course, one of the very first things that is, I think if it's not a law, it should be. But when y'all get to Wyoming, the very first thing you're supposed to be told is, "Hey, don't California my Wyoming. You're welcome here, but you leave your California crap over there."
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
No, it's true. It is true. I don't blame you at all.
But
go ahead.
I was going to say, in defense of you guys, like every person from California that I've met that moved here has been super nice, and seems to be pretty conservative. Of course, you don't know what happens in the voting booth, but all evidence points to them being pretty conservative. And the reason they moved to Wyoming from California is to get away from all that liberalism. And so, that's what's going to happen. And same thing's going to happen in New York after Mom Donning takes over. And other places like Colorado, right? Like Colorado, when I went to college there in the early 2000s, it was a super conservative place. Not so anymore, man. Like you don't even want to go down and watch a baseball game there. I mean, it's. By the way, did you
moving there that did that?
Did you know why? You know why Wyoming doesn't have a professional baseball team?
Why?
Because Colorado would want one too.
Whatever you do, they do, huh? The Rockies.
yeah, exactly. But anyway, man, it's and I think a good place to end this is just to say that what it's going to take to fix our country is people like us, just everyday Joes getting involved. When you get so fed up with how things are being run, that you get off your dead butt and go do something. Make sure you register to vote. And when I go to speaking engagements, I always tell people, look, sometimes if you're having trouble finding somebody to run for an office, maybe that candidate is you. And if you don't like running for office, well, then maybe you can go knock on doors for somebody else who is. Or let's say that you don't like people and you don't want to go knock on doors. Well, then you can watch the kids for somebody that will. Or let's say that you don't like children. Well, but you make a heck of a pie. Well, then go make a pie and take it to the next fundraiser. But the point is, go do something, right? Don't just sit around and complain about it. Get off your butt, go get people registered to vote, get involved, run for a precinct seat, but just do something. And if you want to do what Charlie and I do, like what you and I do, well, then go buy a microphone and start convincing people to do something. But this whole being lazy stuff, it's got to stop.
It's got to stop. David Iverson, the Rush Limbaugh of Wyoming. I really enjoyed talking with you, and I want to do it again real soon. Where do we find you? How do we follow what you're doing?
You can go to my website. It's cowboystatepolitics.com, or you can search for Facebook and X and YouTube are probably the easiest places to catch my show. But just search for Cowboy State Politics and you'll find it.
Right on, brother. Thank you so much for your
time. Thanks, Charlie. It was fun. Right,
talk to you soon. That was fun. I like that. I like you also getting involved and sharing these shows. That's the best way you can help me, because Facebook deleted all of my pages a little over 3 months ago. Violated some community standard. I don't know what community they talked to. It wasn't mine, because mine agrees with me for the most part. So you can share these shows and you'll be really helping get the word out, and follow me and become a part of what I'm doing on Rumble, rumble.com/do-not-talk. But you'll always be able to find these shows on my website. Regardless of what social media does, you'll always find me there. And that's charliesimons.com, charliesimons.com. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America. But most importantly, America bless God.